Once Steve Carell left The Office in Season 7, it was clear that it would be extremely difficult to replace Michael Scott. Michael Scott is not only the best character in The Office, but one of the best sitcom characters of all time. It would never be possible for another actor to effectively mimic Carell's performance to fill the void that his absence leaves. This is something that Andy Bernard tries to do when he becomes manager in The Office Season 8. However, in doing so, Andy actually becomes a worse character. Dean Jello Vickers, who is portrayed by Will Ferrell in The Office, also temporarily tries to replace Michael Scott. However, his character traits are so random and don't fit in the sitcom at all. Therefore, Andy and Dean Jello both prove how hard it is to fill the shoes of Michael Scott. In a perfect world, Carell would have played his iconic character in every season of The Office. Unfortunately, this isn't the case. However, thankfully, one Michael Scott replacement in The Office actually works quite well. James Spader's Robert California was the exact opposite of Michael Scott. Robert California becomes a main character in The Office Season 8. Michael Scott is undoubtedly one of the funniest sitcom characters of all time. However, after he moves to Colorado to be with Holly, the sitcom needed to head in a new direction. Enter James Spader, who plays Robert California in The Office. Unlike Carell, Spader is not a comedic actor at all, which allows him to have a unique presence in The Office. Unlike other actors, Spader doesn't try to mimic Carell in the slightest. Instead, he ensures that Robert California is the opposite of Michael Scott in nearly every way. While Michael Scott is a lazy manager who is terrible with money and struggles to connect with people, Robert California is a hardworking, rich CEO who can seemingly manipulate anyone he wants. Robert California has a completely different background and perspective on the world from Michael, which makes The Office Season 8 stand out compared to other seasons. While Robert California is a character that is not liked by all, it is clear that differentiating him from Michael worked for many fans of the series. Why Robert California was the perfect replacement for Michael Scott. Robert California is an enigma. Robert California, jams Spader, smirking in the office. When Michael officially leaves, several candidates interview to be the new manager. This allowed for many cameos at the end of The Office Season 7. During the two-part Season 7 finale, titled Search Committee, people like Jim Carrey, Ray Romano, and Warren Buffett make cameos in The Office. However, for Jim, Toby, and Gabe, Spader's Robert California stands out and is hired for the role. This leads to Robert California driving to Tallahassee, Florida to convince Joe Bennett to make him CEO at the beginning of The Office Season 8. After becoming CEO, Robert California establishes himself as a main character in the 8th season of the sitcom. Largely due to Spader's inclusion, The Office Season 8 feels very different from every other season of the series. While not all fans enjoy Season 8, it is at least admirable that the writers tried to do something different, rather than attempt to recapture the magic of the Michael Scott era of the series. I wish Robert California had spent more time on The Office. Robert California never returns after The Office Season 8. Robert California from The Office. Personally, I think Robert California is one of the funniest and most fascinating characters of the entire series. The Office is usually criticized for being too silly and unrealistic in the later seasons. I definitely agree with this critique, but not when it comes to Robert California. In fact, I think Robert California's arc is one of the only inherently silly and bizarre storylines that works in The Office. From the time he takes Joe Bennett's job to when he calls himself the Lizard King, I was absolutely enamored by Robert California's character. I actually wish we got to see more of Robert California in The Office. After David Wallace buys back Dunder Mifflin at the end of Season 8, Robert California leaves and doesn't return. This is unfortunate, since he is the only unique Michael Scott replacement. In my opinion, without Robert California, The Office Season 9 is far, far worse than Season 8. Therefore, while some may disagree, I wish Robert California was an even more prominent character in The Office.